Hi everyone, it's Emily from Aussie Quilt here. Today I will be teaching you how to make our placemats. So what you will need is your self-healing cutting mat, your So Easy long ruler, rotary cutter, thread and 4 pins. And of course you'll need your Janome 8900, which I'll be using today, or any other brand if you must, however Janome's the best. When you get your pack, it'll look something like this. First of all are the strips we'll be needing to start off with. You also have your border here and your backing. So we're going to put the border and backing aside for the moment and just work on these strips. At the back of these strips, there is 2 white strips. These will be our outsides of our middle centerpiece. Working on that, I'm going to get 1 white strip, 1 coloured strip, line them up. Now I'm going to be using the side of your foot here with your side of your material. Now remember to always hold these threads once you start. Drop the foot down. Make sure the fabric lines up. Hold these threads and away you go. Open it out. Now obviously I'm only showing you how to make 1. So when you're making 6 or 8 placemats, depending on however many you're doing or the size of your table, you can do it in bulk. So you can do all of your straight stitching first and then go to the iron them all, come back to trim them all. Now on a Janome there is an automatic cutter, so when I press this, it automatically cuts the thread. I lift the foot. Now as you can see there are no threads out the back here. That's fine using Janome because it holds all the threads underneath, so when you get your next piece ready it'll automatically hold them for you so you don't have to do it. As you can see it hasn't threaded back up here, so you don't have to rethread your needle again. So on your machine, you'll have to cut the threads at the end and then hold on to them when you put your next piece on. Now after we've put your 4 coloured strips on, get your white to finish the block. Always make sure the right side is facing the right side, kind of like a hug, 2 fronts are together. Okay. As you can see with just using our straight lines, unfolded, it's a pretty perfect rectangle. With the magic of television, here I am at the ironing board. I bet you can't do it that fast. Now we're going to press the seams. So not ironing, when you iron at home, you iron your clothes backwards and forward and you stretch your material. Here we're going to endeavour not to stretch the material. So first of all, we're going to set these seams. Gently pressing down. Each seam needs a good solid press. Now I prefer to start pressing on the back. Makes it easier. With these, you always iron to your dark side, because if you iron this way, you will actually see your seam through the white. So for this one, we press the seam up towards the dark side. Now, because these are 2.5-inch strips, they are stretchy, so just be aware of that when you are pressing. And then these 3 seams, doesn't matter which way they go, as long as they are nice and flat. As you can see, I'm gently pulling this out. Don't pull it too far, just a little bit. Now I'm going to turn this around and put this seam back the other way so you can't see it in the white. Turn it onto the front and make sure there's no folds in the material. If there is, give it a nice stretch out and press it along the front. Now that your block is pressed, we're going to go and trim it. Lay this block down. What we're going to do is trim off just a little bit on this side so we know it's straight, and then we'll trim the block to 12 inches. So using any line, line up the bottom, firm flat hand, and trim it off. Now we turn our block around, flat side to the edge, using our marks on our board, 12-inch line, making sure we're using the line along the bottom and along the top here. Trim that off, and that is our perfect 12-inch long rectangle. Hi everyone, so we're back at the sewing machine now, and we're going to put our side borders on. Making sure right side is on the right side again. We're going to leave a tag, and there's a tag at the bottom. This is because once we've sewn it and we iron it out, it's much better to trim off the edges nice and straight with a rotary cutter. So picking this up, making sure you do hold those threads out if you're using another brand of sewing machine, otherwise Janomi's you don't need to. And start sewing, remembering side of your foot to your side of your material. Turning that around, we'll get our next one. Same thing, leaving a tag. Once you've clearly seen that you are past your other border, you can stop. You don't have to keep going right down to the edge of your border. Now we're going back to the ironing board to iron these out. So now the same thing before, we're going to set these seams and press them out. Now that that's nice and flat, we'll go back to the cutting board and trim these off straight. Now we are going to trim, and we are going to trim all of the borders plus taking the tags off. So we're going to lay our long ruler down using our 2-inch line, lining it up to our border line, firm flat hand, and trimming off the excess. Flipping this around, doing the same thing, lining the 2-inch line up and trimming off the excess. The most important thing is not to forget the other sides. We're going to trim these down to 2 inches as well. It's only that little bit, however, now that that's done, we can now put the batting in, put the backing on and start quilting. Now we're going to be ironing our top to the batting. Gently placing the top of our placemat roughly in the centre so we have excess all the way around. Grabbing our iron, just ironing across the top of the placemat, making sure you reach all the corners so it sticks nicely. Once that's on, we're going to be going back to the cutting board and trimming the excess batting off. With this next trimming stage, I recommend using an old board or flipping your board over. So as you can see here, there's little bits of fibres of the batting in your board. That's because the self-healing mat opens up and closes again. So all those fibres stay in there and it will wreck your good board. Using your long ruler again, lining up the 2-inch line with your borderline again, we're going to cut the excess batting off. And now I'll see you back at the iron to put the backing on. Now that the top is all trimmed, we're going to lay out our backing faced down. Now if there are creases in it, do press it first and then we'll press all of it together. Once this is ironed out, we're going to put this in the middle again, making sure there's room on the outside. Make sure it's nice and flat and iron down again. Do make sure the iron is nice and hot. We do like steam, so make sure that it all sticks together. As a precaution, now that that's half stuck, flip it over. As you can see, my corner's lifting up, so I need to put that down again and iron on the back just as a bit so it's more secure. Now that that's done, we're going back to the cutting board to trim down your backing size. So now that's all ironed together, we're going to trim the excess of our backing down to 1 inch. So using our 1-inch line, we're going to line that up to the side of our top of our placemat. Trim that to 1 inch and do that to all sides. Now that that's all nice and neat, we're going to go back to the ironing board and I'm going to show you our fast mitered bindings. I'm now going to show you how we do our fast binding. We will require the 4 pins for our corners as well. Folding your binding into the white, we're going to iron that down. And then we're going to fold this over the top of the white we won't be using this corner at the moment. This is going to be our fourth corner, the very last one. Now that that's ironed, we turn it around, and this is what we call the dog ear. We're going to make a nice triangle here, and then fold this one down, butting up to the white. Then fold this over the top of the white, and that there makes our mitered corner. So popping a pin in, just to hold it down, we can then iron the rest of the line. Everyone seems to love how we do our bindings this way, that we've even made our kids' quilts doing bindings this way as well. So they have perfect mitered bindings, a very simple way. Line that up and put a pin in. It's also important that this here is nice and pressed as well, which makes a much better dog ear. Now this at our last corner, unfold this again and make sure this is pressed out nice and flat. Again, do our dog ear, iron this in half, fold him over, pop a pin in, and then you can iron this flat down again. And there you have our mitered bindings. Now that we're back at the machine, we're going to be putting the binding on. We're going to sew as close as we can to the edge of your binding. However, endeavour not to go off. So I'm going to put my needle down. It just helps me. Drop the foot. If you have a locking stitch, I do suggest to do a locking stitch. If you don't, you can go backwards and forward just a few stitches. So once you come to the corner, just slow down a moment. If you have proper quilting pins, you can go over them. Just go slow so you don't break your needle. Go right up to the point. Now, if you want to be very accurate, use the hand winder on the side of your machine to get that exact point. Lift your foot. Pivot the whole placemat. Now, take this pin out. Drop your foot again, making sure your needle's still down. So right exact. Now, if you want to be very accurate, do the first stitch with the hand winder again so you're on the next piece of fabric, and then start again. If you are going to be using these for your table and you're going to have them out with dinner plates on them, I do suggest quickly sewing down these lines just to quilt it and secure it, even go once around the outside, so then you can put it in the washing machine in case they get dirty. Once you've reached the end, again, locking stitch or 2 backwards and forward stitches just to finish off your stitching. And there you have it, your fully made placemat. Congratulations on finishing your placemat. I hope you had fun and I can't wait to see your finished project. For more hints and tips, check out the website www.aussiequickquilt.com.